Evidence grows of left-wing Twitter purge directed by Musk. Facebook failed to block ads containing death threats to election workers, says report. 6 million Afghans on brink of starvation, UN warns. British census says Christians are a minority as nuns rise. Israel condemns Netflix film showing murder of Palestinian family in 1948 war. Qatar's Blue Mosque, a big attraction for non-Muslim foreign visitors. From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Our top story tonight. Several prominent anti-fascist organizers and journalists have had their Twitter accounts suspended in the past week. Elon Musk is apparently overseeing what critics claim is a purge of anti-fascist voices, The Intercept reports on Tuesday. Elon Musk appears to have outsourced decisions about who to ban from Twitter to the platform's right-wing extremists, Intercept's Micah Lee says. Among the suspended Twitter accounts is that of journalist Vishal Pratap Singh, who covers far-right protests in California. The suspension of left-wing accounts came as Musk restored the accounts of far-right figures, some of whom have called for or incited violence on the platform. A new report has found that Facebook failed to block 15 out of 20 ads containing death threats to election workers during last month's U.S. midterm elections. These threats were submitted by researchers to test the platform's enforcement, according to the report released on Thursday. The investigation was conducted by Global Witness and the NYU Cybersecurity for Democracy team. They found that the Meta-owned platform approved almost all of the ads with hate speech researchers submitted on the day of or a day before the elections. However, when researchers submitted the ads to TikTok or YouTube, both platforms suspended the accounts for violation. The research team urged Meta to increase its content moderation capabilities. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy on Wednesday said the company won't remove the film and book from its store that gained attention after Brooklyn Nets player Kyrie Irving promoted it. Jewish groups have said the film and book are anti-Semitic. Irving was suspended from the Nets after tweeting a link to the 2018 film titled Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. It was based on a 2015 book of the same name. The film and book remain available on Amazon as pressure grows for their removal. We have hundreds of millions of customers with lots of different viewpoints, Jassy told Andrew Ross Sorkin during an interview at the New York Times Deal Book Summit. Illinois State University's Martin Luther King Jr. cultural dinner next month will feature Dr. Yusef Salaam, a member of the Exonerated Five. The event, which will be held on January 20th, is being sponsored by the university's Office of the President and others. In 1989, when he was 15 years old, Salaam was tried and convicted in the Central Park jogger case, along with 4 other Black and Latino young men. Now known as the Exonerated Five, these men spent between 7 and 13 years behind bars for the aggravated assault and rape of a white woman in New York's Central Park. All 5 were later exonerated after a prison inmate confessed to the crime. Since his release, Salaam has committed himself to advocating and educating people for criminal justice reform, prison reform, and the abolition of juvenile solitary confinement. Salaam is the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award from former President Barack Obama in 2016. Police have launched an investigation into multiple harassment incidents recently targeting New Jersey mosques. On Saturday afternoon, a digital billboard truck displaying images from a 2008 terror attack in India drove into a lot at the Muslim center of Middlesex County. It circled the property several times before leaving. A few hours later, a similar occurrence took place at the New Brunswick Islamic Center. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy spoke out about the incidents on Twitter, calling them utterly unacceptable and downright shameful. Earlier this year, extremist Hindus in Edison, New Jersey, marched with bulldozers featuring images of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during an Indian Independence Day parade. This was in support of the bulldozing of Muslim homes in India that has been taking place across the country. Saladdin Maksud, Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations New Jersey's branch, said anti-Muslim intimidation tactics like these are unacceptable. The U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday denied an application to stay the execution of Kevin Johnson, a man convicted of murdering a police officer. Johnson had filed a petition to stay his execution with the court, alleging racial bias throughout his prosecution. The petition was presented to Justice Brett Kavanaugh and subsequently denied. Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented, however, saying that they would have granted the application to stay. According to a report from NPR commissioned by St. Louis River City Journalism Fund, the special prosecutor investigating Johnson's claims found that prosecuting attorney Bob McClaw intentionally excluded jurors of color from Johnson's second trial. An expert for Johnson's legal team also found that cases involving a white victim were 3.5 times more likely to receive the death penalty than cases involving black victims. Johnson's execution went ahead on Tuesday morning, and he was executed by lethal injection. Israel condemns Netflix film showing murder of Palestinian family. Details come after the break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. A Netflix film depicting Zionist forces murdering a Palestinian family during the 1948 forced expulsion of Palestinians has been condemned by Israeli officials as creating a false narrative. Farha, the debut of the Jordanian filmmaker Dareen Salaam, has been shown at several film festivals around the world since the release last year. The film is Jordan's Oscar entry for 2023. It is due to begin streaming to a global audience on the online entertainment services today. The film centers on the experiences of a 14-year-old girl, Farha, who is locked in a storage room by her father during the events of the Nakba. Nakba is the Arabic term for the ethnic cleansing and displacement of about 700,000 Palestinians. When Israeli soldiers came to the village, Farha witnessed the killing of her entire family, including 2 small children and a baby, through a crack in the pantry door. Israel's cultural minister, Hil Topper, said Farha depicts lies and libels. The United Nations warned on Wednesday that 6 million people in Afghanistan face an emergency level of food insecurity. UN Deputy Special Representative for Afghanistan, Ramiz Alakbarov, told reporters at the UN headquarters that the UN requires $768 million for the winter. 2/3 of the entire population, more than 28 million people, will need humanitarian assistance next year, according to the UN. The Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan in August last year, followed by the disruption of international financial assistance, has left the war-torn country in economic, humanitarian, and human rights crises. The US and other Western nations have suspended financial assistance to Afghanistan after the Taliban came to power. The Biden administration froze Afghan central bank's foreign reserves worth $7 billion as part of its sanctions on the Taliban. UN human rights experts have called for the United States to release Afghanistan's foreign assets. 3 people were killed and 23 injured on Wednesday when a suicide bomber targeted a police truck in Quetta, Pakistan. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also known as the Pakistani Taliban, claimed responsibility. The Pakistani Taliban are separate from the Afghan Taliban but share a common goal. Senior police officer Azhar Maheser told AFP that the Wednesday's blast targeted a security force preparing to escort polio vaccinators in the city of Quetta. Those killed included a policeman, a woman, and a child. In a statement, the Pakistani Taliban said they detonated a car bomb near a customs post to avenge the killing of their founding member, Umar Khalid Kharusani, during the truce. Over 7 million people in Bangladesh lost their homes and livelihoods this year due to the effects of climate change, the World Health Organization said Monday. The number could reach 13.3 million by 2050, it added. Bangladesh's foreign ministry, meanwhile, said that climate change was costing the country 1% of its gross domestic product every year. According to estimates, rising sea levels will submerge around 17% of the country's coastal lands and displace about 20 million people by 2050. The Global Climate Risk Index 2020 ranks Bangladesh as the 7th riskiest nation in the world. Qatar's Qatar Cultural Village is seeing thousands of visitors each day with a special interest in its Blue Mosque. The village is a waterfront area in the capital Doha that features an amphitheater, museum, and a convention center. Along with these, there's shops, eateries, and a beach. Visitors are lining up for arts and cultural and entertainment activities that coincide with the FIFA World Cup. Near the Blue Mosque is a sign that has been put up at a lounge, inviting tourists to ask volunteers about the status of women in Qatar. At the lounge, foreign women visitors can sit and drink tea and coffee and learn about the social life in Qatar, with a number of volunteers answering their questions. Volunteer Ahmed said the aim of preparing this place near the mosque is to introduce foreigners to the Qatari culture of clothing, food, drink, customs, and traditions. Ahmed says most of the questions from visitors focus on the life of a Muslim based on Islamic values. For the first time, fewer than half of people in England and Wales describe themselves as Christian, the UK Census 2021 has revealed. The proportion of people who said that they were Christian was 46.2%, down from 59.3% in the last census in 2011. In contrast, the number who said that they had no religion increased to 37.2% of the population, up from a quarter. Those identifying as Muslims rose from 4.9% in 2011 to 6.5% last year. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. If you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. A new course at Stanford University teaches students about Islamophobia in the United States. To discuss this in detail, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Hena. A new course is being offered at the Stanford University, and it is about Islamophobia. This fall is going to be the first time, and probably this is the first time at any university. The course named is Interrogating Islamophobia is being taught by Dr. Abiya Ahmed. She's Associate Dean and Director of Stanford Marcus Resource Center. And this report came to us first by Stanford Daily, which is student-run newspaper. And the person who's going to teach the course, Dr. Abiya Ahmed, she is with us. Welcome to Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Why did you plan to teach this course about Islamophobia?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just by way of background, the Marcus Resource Center is one of 7 community centers at Stanford University. And historically, the center has undertaken some anti-Islamophobia trainings and efforts, some resilience sessions for students at Stanford. And this year, we decided to pivot our advocacy efforts a little bit to the academic side. And so we collaborated with the Center for Race and Ethnicity and launched a 1-unit seminar course to sort of take a deeper dive into Islamophobia as a phenomenon. And that's part of our advocacy efforts.
I would love to know a little more about Marcus Center and what other things there are. But is there a history of Islamophobic incidents at the Stanford University which prompted you to do this?
Primarily, I would say that it isn't so much as a history of Islamophobic incidents as it is just the overall need for advocacy for better understanding of Islam and Muslim life at Stanford generally. In the past, our center did receive a grant from Stanford University to undertake anti-Islamophobia efforts. So there's a lot of support for those efforts. Having said that, there are always certain campus groups or some kind of comments or microaggressions that do occur, which sort of form under the realm of Islamophobia. But our goal in teaching this course is to sort of broaden the discourse of Islamophobia, to try to understand what Islamophobia is as a phenomenon. It's not really a course about incident reports or sort of statistics. It's more conceptual. It's trying to get a sense of what is Islamophobia as a category, how does it manifest itself, what are its historical connections, what does it look like, and then because we can understand that, then we can counter it better.
Reading the reports about preparing this particular conversation with you, I saw Robert Spencer has been invited to your campus. Now, he's the person who brought 900 people demonstrating in a program which I was doing on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So why people like that continue to be welcomed in campuses like Stanford? And do you think more education like this course will prevent things of this nature?
I mean, I think we have to remember that universities are academic institutions and, there's freedom of speech and there's all kinds of students and faculty and staff that, there's a diverse group of people that exist on any given campus. And so Robert Spencer was invited quite a few years ago by the Stanford College Republicans. And, it's part of their campus experience and to invite people that they deem fit. And it's part of, people opposing those perspectives to either protest or have counter efforts. And I would put this course as one counter effort.
So, Dr. Ahmed, do you think this course will help reduce Islamophobia?
I mean, do you mean Islamophobia as a phenomenon in the country, in the world, or do you mean Islamophobia at Stanford, or like what is the scope of Islamophobia that you're talking about here?
Well, let's just start with Islamophobia around you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would actually take issue with the question a little bit because I think what we're trying to do is not necessarily tackle Islamophobia as a phenomenon, how it occurs at university, because we've done some research and with students on campus, and Stanford does a pretty good job of accommodating Muslim students and having experiences from Muslim students and Muslim life on campus. The Marcus Center as a resource is one example of that. We do have a lot of other resources. So I think what I hope what this course will do is actually enhance the discourse around Islamophobia, and for both Muslims and non-Muslims, and to try for us to understand and answer some of the questions around what is Islamophobia. Is the term even something that we need to reconsider? Is it a phenomenon that we should look at as though it's racism? Do we think of it as a phobia? So I think those are some of the questions that we're answering, and in the long run, I hope that it will lead to obviously more education, which will ultimately lead to less discrimination and microaggressions and all of those things. But primarily, what the course is trying to do is broaden the scope of the discussion.
What about Stanford teaching people how to live in a multi-religious society?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's our Office of Religious and Spiritual Life that has chaplains from multiple faiths, including a Muslim chaplain. That office is separate from our center. We oversee, the Markaz oversees a lot of other experiences around Muslim identity, including arts and culture, mental health and wellness, political advocacy, social justice, and also academic intersections. We also address some of the professional experiences associated with the Muslim identity. So there is that. And then, like I said, our center is part of a coalition of 7 community centers that deal with other identities, which also talk about which also speak to the point about living in a multicultural and multi-religious, multiracial ethnic society. And I think the university does a pretty good job of trying to achieve that goal.
This is something unique. I mean, chaplaincy is normally, I was just giving a lecture at the University of Illinois, and somebody came introduce, he's the chaplain there. It's a new phenomena relatively, but at Stanford, you're saying there is something else, which is part of your center. So what other centers are there and how they differentiate from chaplaincy?
Yeah, so our collective is known as the Centers for Equity, Community, and Leadership, and some of the other centers have been around for a very, very long time, reaching up to like 50 years. They include the Center for the Native American Cultural Center, the Asian American Cultural Center, the Black Community Services Center, the Women's Community Services Center, the Latino Community Service Center, and Queer Students Resources. And so those are the other 6. And the Markaz actually is the newest. So it started in 2013. We're approaching our 10-year anniversary next year. And it was born out of advocacy by Muslim students and Muslim faculty and staff requesting the university consider having a community center for students who identify as Muslim, but also for students and community that are interested in Islam and Muslims. And so I agree with you. I think this is a relatively newer thing, and it's not very common on other campuses to find such a center.
Well, Dr. Abiya Ahmed, thank you so much for your time and for your work.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Back to you, Hena.
Thank you so much, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube and Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.